The Book of Jubilees, Chapter 1. And it came to pass in the first year of the exodus of the children of Israel out of Egypt, in the 3rd month, on the 16th day of the month, 2450 Anno Mundi, that God spoke to Moses, saying, Come up to me on the mount, and I will give you 2 tables of stone of the law and of the commandment, which I have written, that you may teach them. And Moses went up into the mount of God, and the glory of the Lord abode on Mount Sinai, and a cloud overshadowed it 6 days. And he called to Moses on the 7th day out of the midst of the cloud, and the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a flaming fire on the top of the mount. And Moses was on the mount 40 days and 40 nights, and God taught him the earlier and the later history of the division of all the days of the law and of the testimony. And he said, Incline your heart to every word which I speak to you on this mount, and write them in a book, in order that their generations may see how I have not forsaken them for all the evil which they have wrought, in transgressing the covenant which I established between me and you for their generations this day on Mount Sinai. And thus it will come to pass, when all these things come upon them, that they will recognize that I am more righteous than they in all their judgments, and in all their actions, and they will recognize that I have been truly with them. And write for yourself all these words which I declare to you this day, for I know their rebellion and their stiff neck, before I bring them into the land of which I swore to their fathers, to Abraham, and to Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, To your seed I will give a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will eat and be satisfied, and they will turn to strange gods, to gods which cannot deliver them from any of their tribulation. And this witness shall be heard for a witness against them. For they will forget all my commandments, even all that I command them. And they will walk after the Gentiles, and after their uncleanness, and after their shame, and will serve their gods. And these will prove to them an offense and a tribulation, and an affliction, and a snare. And many will perish, and they will be taken captive, and will fall into the hands of the enemy, because they have forsaken my ordinances and my commandments, and the festivals of my covenant, and my Sabbaths, and my holy place, which I have hallowed for myself in their midst, and my tabernacle, and my sanctuary, which I have hallowed for myself in the midst of the land, that I should set my name upon it, and that it should dwell there. And they will make to themselves high places, and groves, and graven images, and they will worship, each his own graven image, so as to go astray. And they will sacrifice their children to demons, and to all the works of the error of their hearts. And I will send witnesses to them, that I may witness against them, but they will not hear, and will slay the witnesses also. And they will persecute those who seek the law, and they will abrogate and change everything so as to work evil before my eyes. And I will hide my face from them, and I will deliver them into the hand of the Gentiles for captivity, and for a prey, and for devouring. And I will remove them from the midst of the land, and I will scatter them amongst the Gentiles. And they will forget all my law, and all my commandments, and all my judgments, and will go astray as to new moons, and Sabbaths, and festivals, and jubilees, and ordinances. And after this they will turn to me from amongst the Gentiles with all their heart, and with all their soul, and with all their strength. And I will gather them from amongst all the Gentiles, and they will seek me, so that I shall be found of them, when they seek me with all their heart, and with all their soul. And I will disclose to them abounding peace with righteousness. And I will remove them the plant of uprightness, with all my heart and with all my soul, and they shall be for a blessing and not for a curse, and they shall be the head and not the tail. And I will build my sanctuary in their midst, and I will dwell with them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people in truth and righteousness. And I will not forsake them, nor fail them, for I am the Lord their God. And Moses fell on his face and prayed and said,
O Lord my God, do not forsake your people and your inheritance, so that they should wander in the error of their hearts, and do not deliver them into the hands of their enemies, the Gentiles, lest they should rule over them and cause them to sin against you. Let your mercy, O Lord, be lifted up upon your people, and create in them an upright spirit, and let not the spirit of Belial rule over them to accuse them before you, and to ensnare them from all the paths of righteousness, so that they may perish from before your face. But they are your people and your inheritance, which you have delivered with your great power from the hands of the Egyptians. Create in them a clean heart and a holy spirit, and let them not be ensnared in their sins from henceforth until eternity.
And the Lord said to Moses, I know their contrariness, and their thoughts, and their stiff-neckedness, and they will not be obedient till they confess their own sin, and the sin of their fathers. And after this they will turn to me, in all uprightness, and with all their heart, and with all their soul. And I will circumcise the foreskin of their heart, and the foreskin of the heart of their seed. And I will create in them a holy spirit, and I will cleanse them so that they shall not turn away from me from that day to eternity. And their souls will cleave to me, and to all my commandments, and they will fulfill my commandments, and I will be their father, and they shall be my children. And they all shall be called children of the living God, and every angel and every spirit shall know, yea, they shall know that these are my children, and that I am their Father in uprightness and righteousness, and that I love them. And write down for yourself all these words which I declare to you on this mountain, the first and the last, which shall come to pass in all the divisions of the days, in the law and in the testimony, and in the weeks and the jubilees, to eternity, until I descend and dwell with them throughout eternity. And he said to the angel of the presence, Write for Moses from the beginning of creation till my sanctuary has been built among them for all eternity. And the Lord will appear to the eyes of all, and all shall know that I am the God of Israel, and the Father of all the children of Jacob, and King on Mount Zion for all eternity. And Zion and Jerusalem shall be holy. And the angel of the presence, who went before the camp of Israel, took the tables of the divisions of the years from the time of the creation of the law and of the testimony of the weeks of the Jubilees, according to the individual years, according to all the number of the Jubilees, according to the individual years, from the day of the new creation, when the heavens and the earth shall be renewed, and all their creation according to the powers of the heaven, and according to all the creation of the earth, until the sanctuary of the Lord shall be made in Jerusalem on Mount Zion, and all the luminaries be renewed for healing, and for peace, and for blessing for all the elect of Israel, and that thus it may be from that day to all the days of the earth. Chapter 2. And the angel of the presence spoke to Moses according to the word of the Lord, saying, Write the complete history of the creation, how in 6 days the Lord God finished all his works and all that he created, and kept Sabbath on the 7th day, and hallowed it for all ages, and appointed it as a sign for all his works. For on the 1st day he created the heavens, which are above, and the earth, and the waters, and all the spirits which serve before him, the angels of the presence, and the angels of the sanctification, and the angels of the spirit of fire, and the angels of the spirit of the winds, and the angels of the spirit of the clouds, and of darkness, and of snow, and of hail, and of hoar frost, and the angels of the voices, and of the thunder, and of the lightning, and the angels of the spirits of cold, and of heat, and of winter, and of spring, and of autumn, and of summer, and of all the spirits of his creatures, which are in the heavens and on the earth. He created the abysses and the darkness, eventide and night, and the light, dawn and day, which he has prepared in the knowledge of his heart. And thereupon we saw his works, and praised him, and lauded him on account of all his works. For 7 great works did he create on the first day. And on the second day he created the firmament in the midst of the waters, and the waters were divided on that day. Half of them went up above, and half of them went down below the firmament that was in the midst over the face of the whole earth. And this was the only work God created on the second day. And on the third day he commanded the waters to pass from off the face of the whole earth into one place, and the dry land to appear. And the waters did so as he commanded them, and they retired from off the face of the earth into one place outside of this firmament, and the dry land appeared. And on that day he created for them all the seas, according to their separate gathering places, and all the rivers, and the gatherings of the waters in the mountains and on all the earth, and all the lakes, and all the dew of the earth, and the seed which is sown, and all sprouting things, and fruit-bearing trees, and trees of the wood, and the Garden of Eden, in Eden and all plants after their kind. These 4 great works God created on the third day. And on the fourth day he created the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and set them in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon all the earth, and to rule over the day and the night, and divide the light from the darkness. And God appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days, and for Sabbaths, and for months, and for feasts, and for years, and for Sabbaths of years, and for Jubilees, and for all seasons of the years. And it divides the light from the darkness, and for prosperity, that all things may prosper which shoot and grow on the earth. These 3 kinds he made on the fourth day. And on the 5th day he created great sea monsters in the depths of the waters. For these were the first things of flesh that were created by his hands, the fish and everything that moves in the waters, and everything that flies, the birds and all their kinds. And the sun rose above them to prosper them, and above everything that was on the earth, everything that shoots out of the earth, and all fruit-bearing trees and all flesh. These 3 kinds he created on the 5th day. And on the 6th day he created all the animals of the earth, and all cattle, and everything that moves on the earth. After all this he created man. A man and a woman created he them, and gave them dominion over all that is upon the earth, and in the seas, and over everything that flies, and over beasts, and over cattle, and over everything that moves on the earth, and over the whole earth. And over all this he gave him dominion. And these 4 kinds he created on the 6th day, and there were altogether 22 kinds. And he finished all his work on the 6th day, all that is in the heavens, and on the earth, and in the seas, and in the abysses, and in the light, and in the darkness, and in everything. And he gave us a great sign, the Sabbath day, that we should work 6 days, but keep Sabbath on the 7th day from all work. And all the angels of the presence, and all the angels of sanctification, these 2 great classes, he has bid us to keep the Sabbath with him in heaven and on earth. And he said to us, Behold, I will separate to myself a people from among all the peoples, and these shall keep the Sabbath day, and I will sanctify them to myself as my people, and will bless them. As I have sanctified the Sabbath day, and do sanctify it to myself, even so will I bless them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God. And I have chosen the seed of Jacob from amongst all that I have seen, and have written him down as my firstborn son, and have sanctified him to myself forever and ever. And I will teach them the Sabbath day, that they may keep Sabbath thereon from all work. And thus he created therein a sign, in accordance with which they should keep Sabbath with us on the seventh day, to eat and to drink, and to bless him who has created all things, as he has blessed and sanctified to himself a peculiar people above all peoples, and that they should keep Sabbath together with us. And he caused his commandments to ascend as a sweet savor, acceptable before him all the days. There were 22 heads of mankind, from Adam to Jacob, and 22 kinds of work were made until the seventh day. This is blessed and holy, and the former also is blessed and holy, and this one serves with that one for sanctification and blessing. And to this, Jacob and his seed, it was granted that they should always be the blessed and holy ones of the first testimony and law, even as he had sanctified and blessed the Sabbath day on the seventh day. He created heaven and earth and everything that he created in 6 days. And God made the seventh day holy for all his works. Therefore he commanded on its behalf that whoever does any work thereon shall die, and that he who defiles it shall surely die. So command the children of Israel to observe this day, that they may keep it holy, and do not thereon any work, and not to defile it, as it is holier than all other days. And whoever does thereon any work shall surely die eternally, that the children of Israel may observe this day throughout their generations, and not be rooted out of the land, for it is a holy day and a blessed day. And everyone who observes it and keeps Sabbath thereon from all his work will be holy and blessed throughout all days, like us. Declare and say to the children of Israel the law of this day, both that they should keep Sabbath thereon, and that they should not forsake it in error of their hearts, and that it is not lawful to do any work thereon which is unseemly, to do thereon their own pleasure, and that they should not prepare thereon anything to be eaten or drunk, and that it is not lawful to draw water, or bring in or take out thereon through the gates any burden, which they had not prepared for themselves on the 6th day in their dwellings. And they shall not bring in nor take out from house to house on that day, for that day is more holy and blessed than any Jubilee day of the Jubilees. On this we kept Sabbath in the heavens, before it was made known to any flesh to keep Sabbath thereon on the earth. And the Creator of all things blessed it. But he did not sanctify all peoples and nations to keep Sabbath thereon, but Israel alone. Them alone he permitted to eat and drink, and to keep Sabbath thereon on the earth. And the Creator of all things blessed this day, which he had created for blessing and holiness and glory above all days. This law and testimony was given to the children of Israel as a law forever to their generations. Chapter 3. And on the 6 days of the 2nd week we brought, according to the word of God, to Adam all the beasts, and all the cattle, and all the birds, and everything that moves on the earth, and everything that moves in the water, according to their kinds, and according to their types, the beasts on the 1st day, the cattle on the 2nd day, the birds on the 3rd day, and all that which moves on the earth on the 4th day, and that which moves in the water on the 5th day. And Adam named them all by their respective names, and as he called them, so was their name. And on these 5 days Adam saw all these, male and female, according to every kind that was on the earth. but he was alone, and found no helpmeet for him. And the Lord said to us, It is not good that the man should be alone. Let us make a helpmeet for him. And the Lord our God caused a deep sleep to fall upon him, and he slept. And he took for the woman one rib from amongst his ribs. And this rib was the origin of the woman from amongst his ribs. And he built up the flesh in its stead, and built the woman. And he awakened Adam out of his sleep, and on awakening he rose on the 6th day, and he brought her to him. And he knew her, and said to her, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called my wife, because she was taken from her husband. Therefore shall man and wife be one, and therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and cleave to his wife, and they shall be one flesh. In the 1st week was Adam created, and the rib, his wife, in the 2nd week he showed her to him. And for this reason the commandment was given to keep in their defilement, for a male 7 days, and for a female twice 7 days. And after Adam had completed 40 days in the land where he had been created, we brought him into the Garden of Eden to till and keep it. But his wife they brought in on the 80th day, and after this she entered into the Garden of Eden. And for this reason the commandment is written on the heavenly tablets in regard to her that gives birth, If she bears a male, she shall remain in her uncleanness 7 days, according to the 1st week of days, and 33 days shall she remain in the blood of her purifying. And she shall not touch any hallowed thing, nor enter into the sanctuary, until she accomplishes these days which are enjoined in the case of a male child. But in the case of a female child, she shall remain in her uncleanness 2 weeks of days, according to the first 2 weeks, and 66 days in the blood of her purification, and they will be in all 80 days. And when she had completed these 80 days, we brought her into the Garden of Eden, for it is holier than all the earth besides, and every tree that is planted in it is holy. Therefore there was ordained regarding her who bears a male or female child the statute of those days, that she should touch no hallowed thing, nor enter into the sanctuary until these days for the male or female child are accomplished. This is the law and testimony which was written down for Israel, in order that they should observe it all the days. And in the 1st week of the 1st Jubilee, 1 to 7 a.m., Adam and his wife were in the Garden of Eden for 7 years, tilling and keeping it. And we gave him work, and we instructed him to do everything that is suitable for tillage. And he tilled the garden, and was naked, and knew it not, and was not ashamed. And he protected the garden from the birds and beasts and cattle, and gathered its fruit, and ate, and put aside the residue for himself and for his wife, and put aside that which was being kept. And after the completion of the 7 years which he had completed there, 7 years exactly, 8 a.m., and in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, the serpent came and approached the woman. And the serpent said to the woman, Has God commanded you, saying, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And she said to it, Of all the fruit of the trees of the garden God has said to us, Eat. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said to us, You shall not eat thereof, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, You shall not surely die, for God does know that on the day that you shall eat thereof, your eyes will be opened, and you will be as gods, and you will know good and evil. And the woman saw the tree, that it was agreeable and pleasant to the eye, and that its fruit was good for food, and she took thereof and ate.
when she had first covered her shame with fig leaves, she gave thereof to Adam, and he ate. And his eyes were opened, and he saw that he was naked. And he took fig leaves and sewed them together, and made an apron for himself, and covered his shame. And God cursed the serpent, and was angry with it forever. And he was angry with the woman, because she hearkened to the voice of the serpent, and ate. And he said to her, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your pains. In sorrow shall you bring forth children, and your return shall be to your husband, and he will rule over you. And to Adam also he said, Because you have hearkened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat thereof, cursed be the ground for your sake. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat your bread in the sweat of your face, till you return to the earth from where you were taken. For earth you are, and to earth shall you return. And he made for them coats of skin, and clothed them, and sent them forth from the Garden of Eden. And on that day on which Adam went forth from the garden, he offered as a sweet savour an offering, frankincense, galbanum, stacked, and spices in the morning, with the rising of the sun, from the day when he covered his shame. And on that day was closed the mouth of all beasts, and of cattle, and of birds, and of whatever walks, and of whatever moves, so that they could no longer speak. For they had all spoken, one with another, with one lip, and with one tongue. And he sent out of the Garden of Eden all flesh that was in the Garden of Eden, and all flesh was scattered according to its kinds, and according to its types, to the places which had been created for them. And to Adam alone did he give the wherewithal to cover his shame, of all the beasts and cattle. On this account it is prescribed on the heavenly tablets as touching all those who know the judgment of the law, that they should cover their shame, and should not uncover themselves as the Gentiles uncover themselves. And on the new moon of the 4th month Adam and his wife went forth from the Garden of Eden, and they dwelt in the land of Eldah, in the land of their creation. And Adam called the name of his wife Eve. And they had no son till the first Jubilee, 8 a.m., and after this he knew her. Now he tilled the land, as he had been instructed in the Garden of Eden. Chapter 4. And in the 3rd week, in the 2nd Jubilee, 64 to 70 a.m., she gave birth to Cain, and in the 4th, 71 to 77 a.m., she gave birth to Abel, and in the 5th, 78 to 84 a.m., she gave birth to her daughter, Awan. In the 1st year of the 3rd Jubilee, 99 to 105 a.m., Cain slew Abel, because God accepted the sacrifice of Abel, and did not accept the offering of Cain. And he slew him in the field, and his blood cried from the ground to heaven, complaining because he had slain him. And the Lord reproved Cain because of Abel, because he had slain him, and made him a fugitive on the earth because of the blood of his brother, and he cursed him upon the earth. And on this account it is written on the heavenly tables, Cursed is he who strikes his neighbor treacherously. And let all who have seen and heard say, So be it. And the man who has seen and not declared it, let him be accursed as the other. And for this reason we announce when we come before the Lord our God all the sin which is committed in heaven and on earth, and in light and in darkness, and everywhere. And Adam and his wife mourned for Abel 4 weeks of years, 99 to 127 a.m., and in the 4th year of the 5th week, 130 a.m., they became joyful, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bore him a son, and he called his name Seth. For he said, God has raised up a second seed to us on the earth instead of Abel, for Cain slew him. And in the 6th week, 134 to 40 a.m., he begat his daughter Azurah. And Cain took Awan, his sister, to be his wife, and she bore him Enoch at the close of the 4th Jubilee, 190 to 196 a.m. And in the 1st year of the 1st week of the 5th Jubilee, 197 a.m., houses were built on the earth, and Cain built a city, and called its name after the name of his son, Enoch. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she bore him yet 9 sons. And in the 5th week of the 5th Jubilee, 225 to 31 a.m., Seth took Azurah his sister to be his wife. And in the 4th year of the 6th week, 2:35 a.m., she bore him Enosh. He began to call on the name of the Lord on the earth. And in the 7th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, 3:09 to 15 a.m., Enosh took Noam, his sister, to be his wife. And she bore him a son in the 3rd year of the 5th week, and he called his name Canaan. And at the close of the 8th Jubilee, 325, 386 to 3992 a.m., Canaan took Mualaleth, his sister, to be his wife. And she bore him a son in the 9th Jubilee, in the 1st week of the 3rd year of this week, 395 a.m., and he called his name Mahalalel. And in the 2nd week of the 10th Jubilee, 449 to 55 a.m., Mahalalel took to him to wife Dinah, the daughter of Barachiel, the daughter of his father's brother. And she bore him a son in the 3rd week of the 6th year, 461 a.m. And he called his name Jared. For in his days the angels of the Lord descended on the earth, those who are named the Watchers, that they should instruct the children of men, and that they should do judgment and uprightness on the earth. And in the 11th Jubilee, 512 to 18 a.m., Jared took to himself a wife, and her name was Barakah, the daughter of Razajal, a daughter of his father's brother, in the 4th week of this Jubilee, 522 a.m. And she bore him a son in the 5th week, in the 4th year of the Jubilee. And he called his name Enoch. And he was the first among men that are born on earth who learned writing and knowledge and wisdom, and who wrote down the signs of heaven according to the order of their months in a book, that men might know the seasons of the years according to the order of their separate months. And he was the first to write a testimony, and he testified to the sons of men among the generations of the earth, and recounted the weeks of the Jubilees, and made known to them the days of the years, and set in order the months, and recounted the Sabbaths of the years, as we made them known to him. And what was and what will be he saw in a vision of his sleep, as it will happen to the children of men throughout their generations, until the day of judgment. And he saw and understood everything, and wrote his testimony, and placed the testimony on earth for all the children of men, and for their generations. And in the 12th Jubilee, 582 to 88, in the 7th week thereof, he took to himself a wife, and her name was Edna, the daughter of Danel, the daughter of his father's brother. And in the 6th year of this week, 587 a.m., she bore him a son, and he called his name Methuselah. And he was moreover with the angels of God these 6 jubilees of years, and they showed him everything which is on earth and in the heavens, the rule of the sun, and he wrote down everything. And he testified to the Watchers, who had sinned with the daughters of men, for these had begun to unite themselves, so as to be defiled with the daughters of men, and Enoch testified against them all. And he was taken from amongst the children of men, and we conducted him into the garden of Eden in majesty and honor. And behold, there he writes down the condemnation and judgment of the world, and all the wickedness of the children of men. And on account of it, God brought the waters of the flood upon all the land of Eden. for there he was set as a sign, and that he should testify against all the children of men, that he should recount all the deeds of the generations until the day of condemnation. And he burnt the incense of the sanctuary, even sweet spices, acceptable before the Lord on the mount. For the Lord has 4 places on the earth, the Garden of Eden, and the Mount of the East, and this mountain on which you are this day, Mount Sinai, and Mount Zion, which will be sanctified in the new creation, for a sanctification of the earth. Through it will the earth be sanctified from all its guilt and its uncleanness throughout the generations of the world. And in the 14th Jubilee, 6:52 a.m., Methuselah took to himself a wife, Edna, the daughter of Azriel, the daughter of his father's brother, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year of this week, 7:01 to 7 a.m. And he begat a son, and called his name Lamech. And in the 50th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, Lamech took to himself a wife, and her name was Betanus, the daughter of Barachil, the daughter of his father's brother. And in this week she bore him a son, and he called his name Noah, saying, This one will comfort me for my trouble, and all my work, and for the ground which the Lord has cursed. And at the close of the 19th Jubilee, in the 7th week, in the 6th year, 9:30 a.m., thereof Adam died. And all his sons buried him in the land of his creation, and he was the first to be buried in the earth. And he lacked 70 years of 1,000 years. For 1,000 years are as one day in the testimony of the heavens. And therefore was it written concerning the tree of knowledge, On the day that you eat thereof you shall die. For this reason he did not complete the years of this day, for he died during it. At the close of this Jubilee Cain was killed after him in the same year, for his house fell upon him, and he died in the midst of his house, and he was killed by its stones. For with a stone he had killed Abel, and by a stone was he killed in righteous judgment. For this reason it was ordained on the heavenly tablets, With the instrument with which a man kills his neighbor, with the same shall he be killed. After the manner that he wounded him, in like manner shall they deal with him. And in the 25th, 12:05 a.m., Jubilee, Noah took to himself a wife, and her name was Emzara, the daughter of Rachel, the daughter of his father's brother, in the 1st year, in the 5th week, 12:07 a.m. And in the 3rd year thereof she bore him Shem. In the 5th year thereof, 12:09 a.m., she bore him Ham. And in the 1st year, in the 6th week, 12:12 a.m., she bore him Japheth.
Chapter 5. And it came to pass, when the children of men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the angels of God saw them on a certain year of this Jubilee, that they were beautiful to look upon, and they took themselves wives of all whom they chose. And they bore to them sons, and they were giants. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way, alike men and cattle and beasts and birds and everything that walks on the earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders. And they began to devour each other. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and every imagination of the thoughts of all men was thus evil continually. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, and all flesh had corrupted its orders. And all that were upon the earth had wrought all manner of evil before his eyes. And he said that he would destroy man and all flesh upon the face of the earth which he had created. But Noah found grace before the eyes of the Lord. And against the angels whom he had sent upon the earth, he was exceedingly wroth. And he gave commandment to root them out of all their dominion. And he bid us to bind them in the depths of the earth. And behold, they are bound in the midst of them, and are kept separate. And against their sons went forth a command from before his face, that they should be smitten with the sword, and be removed from under heaven. And he said, My spirit shall not always wait on men, for they also are flesh, and their days shall be 120 years. And he sent his word into their midst, that each should slay his neighbor. And they began to slay each other, till they all fell by the sword, and were destroyed from the earth. And their fathers were witnesses of their destruction, and after this they were bound in the depths of the earth forever, until the day of the great condemnation, when judgment is executed on all those who have corrupted their ways and their works before the Lord. And he destroyed all from their places, and there was not left one of them whom he judged not according to all their wickedness. And he made for all his works a new and righteous nature, so that they should not sin in their whole nature forever, but should all be righteous, each in his kind, always. And the judgment of all is ordained and written on the heavenly tablets in righteousness, even the judgment of all who depart from the path which is ordained for them to walk in. And if they walk not therein, judgment is written down for every creature and for every kind. And there is nothing in heaven or on earth, or in light or in darkness, or in Sheol, or in the depth, or in the place of darkness, which is not judged. And all their judgments are ordained and written and engraved. In regard to all he will judge, the great according to his greatness, and the small according to his smallness, and each according to his way. And he is not one who will regard the person of any, nor is he one who will receive gifts. If he says that he will execute judgment on each, if one gave everything that is on the earth, he will not regard the gifts or the person of any, nor accept anything at his hands, for he is a righteous judge. And of the children of Israel it has been written and ordained, if they turn to him in righteousness, he will forgive all their transgressions and pardon all their sins. It is written and ordained that he will show mercy to all who turn from their guilt once a year. And as for all those who corrupted their ways and their thoughts before the flood, no man's person was accepted, save that of Noah alone. For his person was accepted on behalf of his sons, whom God saved from the waters of the flood on his account. For his heart was righteous in all his ways, according as it was commanded regarding him, and he had not departed from anything that was ordained for him. And the Lord said that he would destroy everything which was upon the earth, both men and cattle and beasts and fowl of the air, and that which moves on the earth. And he commanded Noah to make him an ark, that he might save himself from the waters of the flood. And Noah made the ark in all respects as he commanded him. In the 27th Jubilee of years, in the 5th week, in the 5th year, on the new moon of the 1st month, 1307 a.m. And he entered in the 6th year thereof, 1308 a.m., in the 2nd month, on the new moon of the 2nd month, till the 16th. And he entered, and all that we brought to him, into the ark. And the Lord closed it from without on the 17th evening. And the Lord opened 7 floodgates of heaven, and the mouths of the fountains of the great deep, 7 mouths in number. And the floodgates began to pour down water from the heaven 40 days and 40 nights, and the fountains of the deep also sent up waters, until the whole world was full of water, and the waters increased upon the earth. 15 cubits did the waters rise above all the high mountains. And the ark was lifted up above the earth, and it moved upon the face of the waters. And the water prevailed on the face of the earth 5 months, 150 days.
And the ark went and rested on the top of Lubar, one of the mountains of Ararat. And on the new moon, in the 4th month, the fountains of the great deep were closed, and the floodgates of heaven were restrained. And on the new moon of the 7th month, all the mouths of the abysses of the earth were opened, and the water began to descend into the deep below. And on the new moon of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains were seen. And on the new moon of the 1st month, the earth became visible. And the waters disappeared from above the earth in the 5th week, in the 7th year, 1309 a.m. thereof. And on the 17th day of the 2nd month, the earth was dry. And on the 27th thereof, he opened the ark, and sent forth from it beasts, and cattle, and birds, and every moving thing. Chapter 6. And on the new moon of the 3rd month he went forth from the ark, and built an altar on that mountain. And he made atonement for the earth, and took a kid, and made atonement by its blood for all the guilt of the earth. For everything that had been on it had been destroyed, except those that were in the ark with Noah. And he placed the fat thereof on the altar. And he took an ox, and a goat, and a sheep, and kids, and salt, and a turtle dove, and the young of a dove, and placed a burnt sacrifice on the altar, and poured thereon an offering mingled with oil, and sprinkled wine, and strew frankincense over everything, and caused a goodly savour to rise, acceptable before the Lord. And the Lord smelled the goodly savour, and he made a covenant with him that there should not be any more a flood to destroy the earth, that all the days of the earth, seed time and harvest, should never cease, cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night should not change their order, nor cease forever. And you increase and multiply upon the earth, and become many upon it, and be a blessing upon it. The fear of you and the dread of you I will inspire in everything that is on earth and in the sea. And behold, I give to you all beasts, and all winged things, and everything that moves on the earth, and the fish in the waters, and all things for food. As the green herbs, I have given you all things to eat. But flesh with the life thereof, with the blood, you shall not eat. For the life of all flesh is in the blood, lest your blood of your lives be required. At the hand of every man, at the hand of every beast, will I require the blood of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man. And you increase and multiply on the earth. And Noah and his sons swore that they would not eat any blood that was in any flesh. And he made a covenant before the Lord God forever throughout all the generations of the earth in this month. On this account he spoke with you that you should make a covenant with the children of Israel in this month upon the mountain with an oath, and that you should sprinkle blood upon them, because of all the words of the covenant which the Lord made with them forever. And this testimony is written concerning you, that you should observe it continually, so that you should not eat any day any blood of beasts or birds or cattle during all the days of the earth. That the man who eats the blood of beast or cattle or of birds during all the days of the earth, he and his seed shall be rooted out of the land. And command the children of Israel to eat no blood, so that their names and their seed may be before the Lord our God continually. And for this law there is no limit of days, for it is forever. They shall observe it throughout their generations, so that they may continue supplicating on your behalf with blood before the altar. Every day and at every time of morning and evening they shall seek forgiveness on your behalf perpetually before the Lord, that they may keep it and not be rooted out. And he gave to Noah and his sons a sign that there should not again be a flood on the earth. He set his bow in the cloud for a sign of the eternal covenant, that there should not again be a flood on the earth to destroy it all the days of the earth. For this reason it is ordained and written on the heavenly tablets that they should celebrate the Feast of Weeks in this month, once a year, to renew the covenant every year. And this whole festival was celebrated in heaven from the day of creation till the days of Noah, 26 Jubilees, and 5 weeks of years, 1309 to 1659 a.m. And Noah and his sons observed it for 7 Jubilees and 1 week of years, till the day of Noah's death. And from the day of Noah's death, his sons did away with it, until the days of Abraham, and they ate blood. But Abraham observed it, and Isaac and Jacob and his children observed it up to your days. And in your days the children of Israel forgot it, until you celebrated it anew on this mountain. And command the children of Israel to observe this festival in all their generations, for a commandment to them. 1 day in the year, in this month, they shall celebrate the festival. For it is the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of First Fruits. This feast is twofold, and of a double nature. According to what is written and engraved concerning it, celebrate it. For I have written in the first book of the first law, in that which I have written for you, that you should celebrate it in its season, 1 day in the year. And I explain to you its sacrifices, that the children of Israel should remember and should celebrate it throughout their generations in this month, 1 day in every year. And on the new moon of the first month, and on the new moon of the 4th month, and on the new moon of the 7th month, and on the new moon of the 10th month, are the days of remembrance, and the days of the seasons in the 4 divisions of the year. These are written and ordained as a testimony forever. And Noah ordained them for himself as feasts for the generations forever, so that they have become thereby a memorial to him. And on the new moon of the 1st month he was bid to make for himself an ark. And on that day the earth became dry, and he opened the ark and saw the earth. And on the new moon of the 4th month the mouths of the depths of the abyss beneath were closed. And on the new moon of the 7th month all the mouths of the abysses of the earth were opened, and the waters began to descend into them. And on the new moon of the 10th month the tops of the mountains were seen. And Noah was glad. And on this account he ordained them for himself as feasts for a memorial forever, and thus are they ordained. And they placed them on the heavenly tablets. Each had 13 weeks, from one to another, past their memorial. From the 1st to the 2nd, and from the 2nd to the 3rd, and from the 3rd to the 4th. And all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days, and these will make the entire year complete. Thus it is engraved and ordained on the heavenly tablets, and there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year, or from year to year. And command the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days. And these will constitute a complete year. And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony. And they will not leave out any day, nor disturb any feasts. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order,
and they will disturb the seasons, and the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their ordinances. And all the children of Israel will forget, and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons, and seasons, and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. For I know, from henceforth will I declare it to you, and it is not of my own devising. For the book lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feasts of the covenant, and walk according to the feasts of the Gentiles, after their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons, and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order, and make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy, for they will go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and feasts and Jubilees. For this reason I command and testify to you, that you may testify to them. For after your death your children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only, and for this reason they will go wrong as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals. And they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. Chapter 7. And in the 7th week, in the 1st year, 1317 a.m. thereof, Noah planted vines on the mountain on which the ark had rested, named Lubar, one of the Ararat mountains. And they produced fruit in the 4th year, 1320 a.m. And he guarded their fruit, and gathered it in this year in the 7th month. And he made wine therefrom, and put it into a vessel, and kept it until the 5th year, 1321 a.m., until the 1st day, on the new moon of the 1st month. And he celebrated with joy the day of this feast. And he made a burnt sacrifice unto the Lord, 1 young ox, and 1 ram, and 7 sheep, each a year old, and a kid of the goats, that he might make atonement thereby for himself and his sons. And he prepared the kid first, and placed some of its blood on the flesh that was on the altar which he had made. And all the fat he laid on the altar where he had made the burnt sacrifice, and the ox, and the ram, and the sheep, and he laid all their flesh upon the altar. And he placed all their offerings mingled with oil upon it. And afterwards he sprinkled wine on the fire which he had previously made on the altar, and he placed incense on the altar, and caused a sweet savour to ascend, acceptable before the Lord his God. And he rejoiced, and drank of this wine, he and his children, with joy. And it was evening, and he went into his tent, and being drunken, he lay down and slept, and was uncovered in his tent as he slept. And Ham saw Noah his father naked, and went forth and told his 2 brothers outside. And Shem took his garment, and arose, he and Japheth, and they placed the garment on their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the shame of their father, and their faces were backward. And Noah awoke from his sleep, and knew all that his younger son had done to him. And he cursed his son, and said, Cursed be Canaan, an enslaved servant shall he be to his brothers. And he blessed Shem, and said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and God shall dwell in the dwelling of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And Ham knew that his father had cursed his younger son, and he was displeased that he had cursed his son. And he parted from his father, he and his sons with him, Cush, and Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan. And he built for himself a city, and called its name after the name of his wife, Ne'alatamauk. And Japheth saw it, and became envious of his brother. And he too built for himself a city, and he called its name after the name of his wife, Adatanasis. And Shem dwelt with his father Noah, and he built a city close to his father on the mountain. And he too called its name after the name of his wife, Sedekatelabab. And behold, these 3 cities are near Mount Lubar, Sedekatelabab fronting the mountain on its east, and Neelatomauk on the south, Adatanasis towards the west. And these are the sons of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Arpachshad. This son was born 2 years after the flood, and Lud and Aram. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, Tubal, and Mesech, and Tyrus. These are the sons of Noah. And in the 28th Jubilee, 1324 to 1372 A.M., Noah began to enjoin upon his sons' sons the ordinances and commandments, and all the judgments that he knew. And he exhorted his sons to observe righteousness, and to cover the shame of their flesh, and to bless their Creator, and honor father and mother, and love their neighbor, and guard their souls from fornication, and uncleanness, and all iniquity. For owing to these 3 things came the flood upon the earth, namely, owing to the fornication wherein the watchers, against the law of their ordinances, went a-whoring after the daughters of men, and took themselves wives of all which they chose, and they made the beginning of uncleanness. And they begat sons of Nephidim, and they were all unlike, and they devoured one another. And the giants slew the Naphal, and the Naphal slew the Eljo, and the Eljo mankind, and one man another. And every one sold himself to work iniquity, and to shed much blood, and the earth was filled with iniquity. And after this they sinned against the beasts and the birds, and all that moves and walks on the earth, and much blood was shed on the earth. And every imagination and desire of men imagined vanity and evil continually. And the Lord destroyed everything from off the face of the earth, because of the wickedness of their deeds, and because of the blood which they had shed in the midst of the earth. He destroyed everything. And we were left, I and you, my sons, and everything that entered with us into the ark. And behold, I see your works before me, that you do not walk in righteousness. For in the path of destruction you have begun to walk, and you are parting one from another, and are envious of one another, and so it comes that you are not in harmony, my sons, each with his brother. For I see, and behold, the demons have begun their seductions against you, and against your children. And now I fear on your behalf, that after my death you will shed the blood of men upon the earth, and that you too will be destroyed from the face of the earth. For whoso sheds man's blood, and whoso eats the blood of any flesh, shall all be destroyed from the earth. And there shall not be left any man that eats blood, or that sheds the blood of man on the earth. Nor shall there be left to him any seed or descendants living under heaven. For into Sheol shall they go, and into the place of condemnation shall they descend, and into the darkness of the deep shall they all be removed, by a violent death. There shall be no blood seen upon you. Of all the blood there shall be all the days in which you have killed any beasts or cattle, or whatever flies upon the earth. And work a good work to your souls, by covering that which has been shed on the face of the earth. And you shall not be like him who eats with blood, but guard yourselves, that none may eat blood before you. Cover the blood, for thus have I been commanded to testify to you and your children, together with all flesh. And suffer not the soul to be eaten with the flesh, that your blood, which is your life,
may not be required at the hand of any flesh that sheds it on the earth. For the earth will not be clean from the blood which has been shed upon it. For only through the blood of him that shed it will the earth be purified throughout all its generations. And now, my children, hearken. Work judgment and righteousness, that you may be planted in righteousness over the face of the whole earth, and your glory lifted up before my God, who saved me from the waters of the flood. And behold, you will go and build for yourselves cities, and plant in them all the plants that are upon the earth, and moreover all fruit-bearing trees. For 3 years the fruit of everything that is eaten will not be gathered, and in the 4th year its fruit will be accounted holy. And they will offer the first fruits, acceptable before the Most High God, who created heaven and earth and all things. Let them offer in abundance the first of the wine and oil as first fruits on the altar of the Lord, who receives it. And what is left, let the servants of the house of the Lord eat before the altar which receives it. And in the 5th year make the release, so that you release it in righteousness and uprightness. And you shall be righteous, and all that you plant shall prosper. For thus did Enoch, the father of your father, command Methuselah his son, and Methuselah his son Lamech. And Lamech commanded me all the things which his fathers commanded him. And I also will give you commandment, my sons, as Enoch commanded his son in the first Jubilees. While still living, the 7th in his generation, he commanded and testified to his son and to his son's sons until the day of his death.
Chapter 8. In the 29th Jubilee, in the first week, 1373 a.m., in the beginning thereof, Arpachshad took to himself a wife, and her name was Razu-ehah, the daughter of Susan, the daughter of Elam. And she bore him a son in the 3rd year in this week, 1375 a.m., and he called his name Canaan. And the son grew, and his father taught him writing, and he went to seek for himself a place where he might seize for himself a city. And he found a writing which former generations had carved on the rock, and he read what was thereon, and he transcribed it, and sinned owing to it. For it contained the teachings of the watchers, in accordance with which they used to observe the omens of the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and all the signs of heaven. And he wrote it down, and said nothing regarding it, for he was afraid to speak to Noah about it, lest he should be angry with him on account of it. And in the 30th Jubilee, 1429 a.m., in the 2nd week, in the 1st year thereof, he took to himself a wife, and her name was Melchah, the daughter of Madai, the son of Japheth. And in the 4th year, 1432 a.m., he begat a son, and called his name Shelah. For he said, Truly I have been sent. And in the 4th year he was born, and Shelah grew up, and took to himself a wife, and her name was Muach, the daughter of Kesed, his father's brother, in the 31st Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year, 1499 a.m. thereof. And she bore him a son in the 5th year, 1503 a.m. thereof, and he called his name Eber. And he took to himself a wife, and her name was Azurad, the daughter of Nebrad, in the 32nd Jubilee, in the 7th week, in the 3rd year thereof, 1564 a.m. And in the 6th year, 1567 a.m. thereof, she bore him a son, and he called his name Peleg. For in the days when he was born, the children of Noah began to divide the earth amongst themselves. For this reason he called his name Peleg. And they divided it secretly amongst themselves, and told it to Noah. And it came to pass, in the beginning of the 33rd Jubilee, 1569 a.m., that they divided the earth into 3 parts, for Shem, and Ham, and Japheth, according to the inheritance of each, in the first year, in the first week, when one of us who had been sent was with them. And he called his sons, and they drew near to him, they and their children, and he divided the earth into the lots, which his 3 sons were to take in possession. And they reached forth their hands, and took the writing out of the bosom of Noah, their father. And there came forth on the writing as Shem's lot the middle of the earth, which he should take as an inheritance for himself, and for his sons, and for the generations of eternity. From the middle of the mountain range of Rapha, from the mouth of the water from the river Tina, and his portion goes towards the west, through the midst of this river. And it extends till it reaches the water of the abysses, out of which this river goes forth and pours its water into the sea Me'at, and this river flows into the great sea. And all that is towards the north is Japheth's, and all that is towards the south belongs to Shem. And it extends till it reaches Keraso. This is the bosom of the tongue which looks towards the south. And his portion extends along the great sea, and it extends in a straight line till it reaches the west of the tongue which looks towards the south. For this sea is named the tongue of the Egyptian sea. And it turns from here towards the south, towards the mouth of the great sea on the shore of its waters, and it extends to the west to Aphrah, and it extends till it reaches the waters of the river Gihon, and to the south of the waters of Gihon to the banks of this river. And it extends towards the east till it reaches the Garden of Eden, to the south thereof, to the south and from the east of the whole land of Eden, and from the whole east it turns to the east, and proceeds till it reaches the east of the mountain named Rapha, and it descends to the bank of the mouth of the river Tina. This portion came forth by lot for Shem and his sons, that they should possess it forever unto his generations forevermore. And Noah rejoiced that this portion came forth for Shem and for his sons, and he remembered all that he had spoken with his mouth in prophecy. For he had said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and may the Lord dwell in the dwelling of Shem. And he knew that the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies, and the dwelling of the Lord, and Mount Sinai the center of the desert, and Mount Zion the center of the navel of the earth. These 3 were created as holy places, facing each other. And he blessed the God of gods, who had put the word of the Lord into his mouth, and the Lord forevermore. And he knew that a blessed portion and a blessing had come to Shem and his sons, to the generations forever. The whole land of Eden, and the whole land of the Red Sea, and the whole land of the east and India, and on the Red Sea and the mountains thereof, and all the land of Bashan, and all the land of Lebanon, and the islands of Caphtor, and all the mountains of Sanir and Amana, and the mountains of Asher in the north, and all the land of Elam, Asher and Babel, and Susan and Meday, and all the mountains of Ararat, and all the region beyond the sea, which is beyond the mountains of Asher towards the north, a blessed and spacious land, and all that is in it is very good. And for Ham came forth the second portion, beyond the Gihon towards the south, to the right of the garden. And it extends towards the south, and it extends to all the mountains of fire, and it extends towards the west to the sea of Atel, and it extends towards the west till it reaches the sea of Ma'uk, that sea into which everything which is not destroyed descends. And it goes forth towards the north to the limits of Gader, and it goes forth to the coast of the waters of the sea, to the waters of the great sea, till it draws near to the river Gihon, and goes along the river Gihon till it reaches the right of the Garden of Eden. And this is the land which came forth for Ham as the portion which he was to occupy forever, for himself and his sons, unto their generations forever. And for Japheth came forth the third portion beyond the river Tena to the north of the outflow of its waters, and it extends north, easterly, to the whole region of Gog, and to all the country east thereof. And it extends northerly to the north, and it extends to the mountains of Kelt towards the north, and towards the sea of Mauk. And it goes forth to the east of Gader, far as the region of the waters of the sea. And it extends until it approaches the west of Phara, and it returns towards Apharag. And it extends easterly to the waters of the sea of Meat. And it extends to the region of the river Tena in a northeasterly direction, until it approaches the boundary of its waters towards the mountain Rapha, and it turns round towards the north. This is the land which came forth for Japheth and his sons, as the portion of his inheritance which he should possess for himself and his sons, for their generations, forever. 5 great islands, and a great land in the north. But it is cold, and the land of Ham is hot. And the land of Shem is neither hot nor cold, but it is of blended cold and heat. Chapter 9. And Ham divided amongst his sons, and the first portion came forth for Cush towards the east, and to the west of him for Mizraim, and to the west of him for Put, and to the west of him, and to the west thereof, on the sea for Canaan. And Shem also divided amongst his sons, and the first portion came forth for Ham and his sons to the east of the river Tigris, till it approaches the east, the whole land of India, and on the Red Sea on its coast, and the waters of Dedan, and all the mountains of Mebri, and Elah, and all the land of Susan, and all that is on the side of Pharnech, to the Red Sea, and the river Tena. And for Asher came forth the second portion, all the land of Asher and Nineveh, and Shinar, and to the border of India. And it ascends and skirts the river. And for Arpachshad came forth the third portion, all the land of the region of the Chaldees, to the east of the Euphrates, bordering on the Red Sea, and all the waters of the desert close to the tongue of the sea, which looks towards Egypt, all the land of Lebanon, and Senir, and Amana, to the border of the Euphrates. And for Aram there came forth the fourth portion, all the land of Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and the Euphrates, on the north of the Chaldees, to the border of the mountains of Asher, and the land of Arara. And there came forth for Lud the fifth portion, the mountains of Asher, and all appertaining to them, till it reaches the great sea, until it reaches the east of Asher his brother. And Japheth also divided the land of his inheritance among his sons. And the first portion came forth for Gomer, to the east, from the north side to the river Tena. And in the north there came forth for Magog all the inner portions of the north, until it reaches to the sea of Meat. And for Madai came forth as his portion, that he should possess from the west of his 2 brothers to the islands, and to the coasts of the islands. And for Javan came forth the fourth portion, and the islands which are towards the border of Lud. And for Tubal there came forth the fifth portion in the midst of the tongue, which approaches towards the border of the portion of Lud, to the second tongue, to the region beyond the second tongue, to the third tongue. And for Mesech came forth the sixth portion, all the region beyond the third tongue, till it approaches the east of Gader. And for Tyrus there came forth the seventh portion, 4 great islands in the midst of the sea, which reached the portion of Ham, and the islands of Kamaturi came out by lot for the sons of Arpachshad and his inheritance. And thus the sons of Noah divided to their sons, in the presence of Noah their father. And he bound them all by an oath, imprecating a curse on every one that sought to seize the portion which had not fallen to him by his lot. And they all said, So be it, so be it. for themselves and their sons forever throughout their generations till the day of judgment, on which the Lord God shall judge them with a sword and with fire for all the unclean wickedness of their errors, wherewith they have filled the earth with transgression and uncleanness and fornication and sin. Chapter 10. And in the 3rd week of this Jubilee, the unclean demons began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah, and to make to err and destroy them. And the sons of Noah came to Noah their father, and they told him concerning the demons which were leading astray, and blinding and slaying his sons' sons. And he prayed before the Lord his God, and said,
God of the spirits of all flesh, who has shown mercy to me, and has saved me and my sons from the waters of the flood, and has not caused me to perish as you did the sons of perdition. For your grace has been great towards me, and great has been your mercy to my soul. Let your grace be lifted up among my sons, and let not wicked spirits rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. But do bless me and my sons, that we may increase and multiply and replenish the earth. And you know how your watchers, the fathers of these spirits, acted in my day. And as for these spirits which are living, imprison them, and hold them fast in the place of condemnation, and let them not bring destruction on the sons of your servant, my God. For these are malignant and created in order to destroy. And let them not rule over the spirits of the living, for you alone can exercise dominion over them. And let them not have power over the sons of the righteous from henceforth and forevermore.
And the Lord God bid us to bind all. And the chief of the spirits, Mastema, came and said,
Lord Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them hearken to my voice, and do all that I shall say to them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. For these are for corruption and leading astray before my judgment. For great is the wickedness of the sons of men.
And he said, Let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation. And one of us he commanded that we should teach Noah all their medicines, for he knew that they would not walk in uprightness, nor strive in righteousness. And we did, according to all his words. All the malignant evil ones we bound in the place of condemnation, and a 10th part of them we left, that they might be subject before Satan on the earth. And we explained to Noah all the medicines of their diseases, together with their seductions, how he might heal them with herbs of the earth. And Noah wrote down all things in a book, as we instructed him concerning every kind of medicine. Thus the evil spirits were precluded from hurting the sons of Noah. And he gave all that he had written to Shem, his eldest son, for he loved him exceedingly above all his sons. And Noah slept with his fathers, and was buried on Mount Lubar in the land of Ararat. 950 years he completed in his life, 19 Jubilees, and 2 weeks and 5 years, 1659 a.m. And in his life on earth he excelled the children of men save Enoch because of the righteousness wherein he was perfect. For Enoch's office was ordained for a testimony to the generations of the world, so that he should recount all the deeds of generation to generation till the day of judgment. And in the 33rd Jubilee, in the 1st year, in the 2nd week, Peleg took to himself a wife, whose name was Lomna, the daughter of Sinahar. And she bore him a son in the 4th year of this week, and he called his name Reu, for he said, Behold, the children of men have become evil through the wicked purpose of building for themselves a city and a tower in the land of Shinar. For they departed from the land of Ararat eastward to Shinar, for in his days they built the city and the tower, saying, Go to, let us ascend thereby into heaven. And they began to build. And in the 4th week they made brick with fire, and the bricks served them for stone, and the clay with which they cemented them together was asphalt, which comes out of the sea, and out of the fountains of the water in the land of Shinar. And they built it 43 years, 1645 to 1688 a.m., were they building it. Its breadth was 203 bricks, and the height of a brick was the third of one. Its height amounted to 5,433 cubits and 2 palms, and the extent of one wall was 13 stades, and of the other 30 stades. And the Lord our God said to us, Behold, they are one people, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be withheld from them. Go to, let us go down and confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech, and they may be dispersed into cities and nations, and one purpose will no longer abide with them, till the day of judgment. And the Lord descended, and we descended with him, to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. And he confounded their language, and they no longer understood one another's speech. And they ceased then to build the city and the tower. For this reason the whole land of Shinar is called Babel, because the Lord did confound all their language of the children of men, and from there they were dispersed into their cities, each according to his language and his nation. And the Lord sent a mighty wind against the tower, and overthrew it upon the earth. And behold, it was between Ashur and Babylon, in the land of Shinar. And they called its name Overthrow. In the 4th week, in the 1st year, 1688 a.m., in the beginning thereof, in the 34th Jubilee, were they dispersed from the land of Shinar. And Ham and his sons went into the land which he was to occupy, which he acquired as his portion in the land of the south. And Canaan saw the land of Lebanon to the river of Egypt, that it was very good. And he went not into the land of his inheritance to the west, that is, to the sea. And he dwelt in the land of Lebanon, eastward and westward from the border of Jordan, and from the border of the sea. And Ham his father, and Cush and Mizraim his brothers, said to him, You have settled in a land which is not yours, and which did not fall to us by lot. Do not do so, for if you do so, you and your sons will fall in the land, and be cursed through sedition. For by sedition you have settled, and by sedition will your children fall, and you shall be rooted out forever. Dwell not in the dwelling of Shem, for to Shem and to his sons did it come, by their lot. Cursed are you, and cursed shall you be, beyond all the sons of Noah, by the curse by which we bound ourselves, by an oath in the presence of the holy judge, and in the presence of Noah our father. But he did not hearken to them, and dwelt in the land of Lebanon from Hamath to the entering of Egypt, he and his sons, until this day. And for this reason that land is named Canaan. And Japheth and his sons went towards the sea, and dwelt in the land of their portion. And Madai saw the land of the sea, and it did not please him. And he begged a portion from Ham, and Ashur, and Arpachshad, his wife's brother. And he dwelt in the land of Media, near to his wife's brother, until this day. And he called his dwelling place, and the dwelling place of his sons, Media, after the name of their father, Madai. Chapter 11. And in the 35th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year, 1681 a.m., Reu took to himself a wife, and her name was Orah, the daughter of Ur, the son of Kesed, and she bore him a son, and he called his name Saroh, in the 7th year of this week, in this Jubilee. 1687 a.m. And the sons of Noah began to war on each other, to take captive, and to slay each other, and to shed the blood of men on the earth, and to eat blood, and to build strong cities, and walls, and towers, and individuals began to exalt themselves above the nation, and to found the beginnings of kingdoms, and to go to war people against people, and nation against nation, and city against city. And all began to do evil, and to acquire arms, and to teach their sons war. And they began to capture cities, and to sell male and female slaves. And Ur, the son of Kesed, built the city of Arah of the Chaldees, and called its name after his own name, and the name of his father. And they made for themselves molten images, and they worshipped each the idol, the molten image which they had made for themselves. And they began to make graven images and unclean simulacra. And malignant spirits assisted and seduced them into committing transgression and uncleanness. And the prince Mastema exerted himself to do all this, and he sent forth other spirits, those which were put under his hand, to do all manner of wrong and sin, and all manner of transgression, to corrupt and destroy, and to shed blood upon the earth. For this reason he called the name of Saroh Serug, for everyone turned to do all manner of sin and transgression. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, near to the father of his wife's mother, and he worshipped idols. And he took to himself a wife in the 36th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof, 1744 a.m. And her name was Melcha, the daughter of Caber, the daughter of his father's brother. And she bore him Nahor, in the 1st year of this week, and he grew and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees. And his father taught him the researches of the Chaldees, to divine and augur according to the signs of heaven. And in the 37th Jubilee, in the 6th week, in the 1st year thereof, 1800 a.m., he took to himself a wife, and her name was Ijaska, the daughter of Nestag of the Chaldees. And she bore him Terah, in the 7th year of this week, 1806 a.m. And the prince Mastema sent ravens and birds to devour the seed which was sown in the land, in order to destroy the land, and rob the children of men of their labors. Before they could plow in the seed, the ravens picked it from the surface of the ground. And for this reason he called his name Terah, because the ravens and the birds reduced them to destitution and devoured their seed. And the years began to be barren, owing to the birds, and they devoured all the fruit of the trees from the trees. It was only with great effort that they could save a little of all the fruit of the earth in their days. And in this 39th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 1st year, 1870 a.m., Terah took to himself a wife, and her name was Edna, the daughter of Abram, the daughter of his father's sister. And in the 7th year of this week, 1876 a.m., she bore him a son, and he called his name Abram, by the name of the father of his mother, for he had died before his daughter had conceived a son. And the child began to understand the errors of the earth, that all went astray after graven images and after uncleanness. And his father taught him writing. And he was 2 weeks of years old, 1890 a.m., and he separated himself from his father, that he might not worship idols with him. And he began to pray to the Creator of all things, that he might save him from the errors of the children of men, and that his portion should not fall into error after uncleanness and vileness. And the seed time came, for the sowing of seed upon the land, and they all went forth together to protect their seed against the ravens. And Abram went forth with those that went, and the child was a lad of 14 years. And a cloud of ravens came to devour the seed, and Abram ran to meet them before they settled on the ground, and cried to them before they settled on the ground to devour the seed, and said, "Descend not! Return to the place from where you came." And they proceeded to turn back. And he caused the clouds of ravens to turn back that day 70 times. And of all the ravens throughout all the land where Abram was, there settled there not so much as one. And all who were with him throughout all the land saw him cry out, and all the ravens turned back. And his name became great in all the land of the Chaldees. And there came to him this year all those that wished to sow, and he went with them until the time of sowing ceased, and they sowed their land. And that year they brought enough grain home, and eat, and were satisfied. And in the first year of the 5th week, 1891 a.m., Abram taught those who made implements for oxen, the artificers in wood, and they made a vessel above the ground, facing the frame of the plow, in order to put the seed thereon. And the seed fell down therefrom upon the share of the plow, and was hidden in the earth, and they no longer feared the ravens. And after this manner they made vessels above the ground on all the frames of the plows, and they sowed and tilled all the land, according as Abram commanded them, and they no longer feared the birds. Chapter 12. And it came to pass in the 6th week, in the 7th year thereof, 1904 a.m., that Abram said to Terah his father, saying, Father. And he said, Behold, here am I, my son. And he said, What help and profit do we have from those idols which you worship, and before which you bow yourself? For there is no spirit in them, for they are dumb forms, and a misleading of the heart. Do not worship them. Worship the God of heaven, who causes the rain and the dew to descend on the earth, and does everything upon the earth, and has created everything by his word, and all life is from before his face. Why do you worship things that have no spirit in them? For they are the work of men's hands, and on your shoulders do you bear them, and you have no help from them. But they are a great cause of shame to those who make them, and a misleading of the heart to those who worship them. Worship them not. And his father said to him, I also know it, my son. But what shall I do with a people who have made me to serve before them? And if I tell them the truth, they will kill me, for their soul cleaves to them to worship them and honor them. Keep silent, my son, lest they kill you. And these words he spoke to his 2 brothers, and they were angry with him, and he kept silent. And in the 40th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 7th year thereof, 1925 a.m., Abram took to himself a wife, and her name was Sarai, the daughter of his father, and she became his wife. And Haran, his brother, took to himself a wife in the 3rd year of the 3rd week, 1928 a.m., and she bore him a son in the 7th year of this week, 1932 a.m., and he called his name Lot. And Nahor, his brother, took to himself a wife. And in the 60th year of the life of Abram, that is, in the 4th week, in the 4th year thereof, 1936 a.m., Abram arose by night, and burned the house of the idols. And he burned all that was in the house, and no man knew it. And they arose in the night, and sought to save their gods from the midst of the fire. And Haran hasted to save them, but the fire flamed over him, and he was burnt in the fire. And he died in Ur of the Chaldees, before Terah his father. And they buried him in Ur of the Chaldees. And Terah went forth from Ur of the Chaldees, he and his sons, to go into the land of Lebanon, and into the land of Canaan, and he dwelt in the land of Haran, and Abram dwelt with Terah his father in Haran 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, in the 5th year thereof, 1951 a.m., Abram sat up throughout the night on the new moon of the 7th month to observe the stars from the evening to the morning, in order to see what would be the character of the year with regard to the rains. And he was alone as he sat and observed. And a word came into his heart, and he said, "All the signs of the stars and the signs of the moon and of the sun are all in the hand of the Lord. Why do I search them out? If he desires, he causes it to rain, morning and evening, and if he desires, he withholds it, and all things are in his hand." And he prayed that night and said, "My God, God Most High, you alone are my God, and you and your dominion have I chosen. And you have created all things, and all things that are the work of your hands. Deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have dominion over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from you, my God, and establish me and my seed forever, that we do not go astray from henceforth and forevermore." And he said, "Shall I return to Ur of the Chaldees, who seek my face, that I may return to them? Am I to remain here in this place? The right path before you will prosper in the hands of your servant, that he may fulfill it, and that I may not walk in the deceitfulness of my heart, O my God." And he made an end of speaking and praying, and behold, the word of the Lord was sent to him through me, saying, "Get thee up from your country, and from your kindred, and from the house of your father, to a land which I will show you, and I shall make you a great and numerous nation. And I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be blessed in the earth. And in you shall all families of the earth be blessed. And I will bless those that bless you, and curse those that curse you. And I will be God to you, and your son, and to your son's son, and to all your seed. Fear not. From henceforth and to all generations of the earth, I am your God." And the Lord God said, "Open his mouth and his ears, that he may hear and speak with his mouth, with the language which has been revealed." For it had ceased from the mouths of all the children of men from the day of the overthrow of Babel. And I opened his mouth, and his ears, and his lips, and I began to speak with him in Hebrew, in the tongue of the creation. And he took the books of his fathers, and these were written in Hebrew, and he transcribed them, and he began from henceforth to study them. And I made known to him that which he could not understand, and he studied them during the 6 rainy months. And it came to pass in the 7th year of the 6th week, 1953 a.m., that he spoke to his father and informed him that he would leave Haran to go into the land of Canaan to see it, and return to him. And Terah his father said to him, "Go in peace. May the eternal God make your path straight, and the Lord be with you and protect you from all evil, and grant to you grace, mercy, and favor before those who see you. And may none of the children of men have power over you to harm you. Go in peace. And if you see a land pleasant to your eyes to dwell in, then arise and take me to you, and take Lot with you, the son of Haran your brother, as your own son. The Lord be with you. And Nahor your brother leave with me, till you return in peace, and we go with you all together." Chapter 13. And Abram journeyed from Haran, and he took Sarai his wife, and Lot, his brother Haran's son, to the land of Canaan. And he came into Asher, and proceeded to Shechem, and dwelt near a lofty oak. And he saw, and behold, the land was very pleasant, from the entering of Hamath to the lofty oak. And the Lord said to him, To you and to your seed will I give this land. And he built an altar there, and he offered thereon a burnt sacrifice to the Lord, who had appeared to him. And he left from there to the mountain, Bethel on the west, and Ai on the east, and pitched his tent there. And he saw, and behold, the land was very wide and good. And everything grew thereon, vines and figs and pomegranates, oaks and ilexes, and terebinths, and oil trees, and cedars, and cypresses, and date trees, and all trees of the field. And there was water on the mountains. And he blessed the Lord, who had led him out of Ur of the Chaldees, and had brought him to this land. And it came to pass in the first year, in the 7th week, on the new moon of the first month, 1954 a.m., that he built an altar on this mountain, and called on the name of the Lord. You, eternal God, are my God. And he offered on the altar a burnt sacrifice to the Lord, that he should be with him, and not forsake him, all the days of his life. And he left there, and went towards the south. And he came to Hebron, and Hebron was built at that time. And he dwelt there 2 years. And he went from there into the land of the south, to Baalath, and there was a famine in the land. And Abram went into Egypt in the 3rd year of the week, and he dwelt in Egypt 5 years before his wife was torn away from him. Now Tanais in Egypt was built at that time, 7 years after Hebron. And it came to pass when Pharaoh seized Sarai, the wife of Abram, that the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Abram was very glorious by reason of possessions in sheep and cattle, and asses and horses, and camels and men servants and maidservants, and in silver and gold exceedingly. And Lot also his brother's son was wealthy. And Pharaoh gave back Sarai, the wife of Abram, and he sent him out of the land of Egypt. And he journeyed to the place where he had pitched his tent at the beginning, to the place of the altar, with Ai on the east, and Bethel on the west. And he blessed the Lord his God, who had brought him back in peace. And it came to pass in the 41st Jubilee, in the 3rd year of the 1st week, 1963 a.m., that he returned to this place and offered thereon a burnt sacrifice, and called on the name of the Lord, and said, You, O Most High God, are my God forever and ever. And in the 4th year of this week, 1964 a.m., Lot parted from him. And Lot dwelled in Sodom. And the men of Sodom were sinners exceedingly. And it grieved him in his heart that his brother's son had parted from him, for he had no children. In that year, when Lot was taken captive, the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had parted from him, in the 4th year of this week, Lift up your eyes from the place where you are dwelling, northward and southward, and westward and eastward. For all the land which you see I will give to you, and to your seed forever, and I will make your seed as the sand of the sea. Though a man may number the dust of the earth, yet your seed shall not be numbered. Arise, walk through the land, in the length of it and the breadth of it, and see it all, for to your seed will I give it. And Abram went to Hebron, and dwelt there. And in this year came Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Selasar, and Turgal, king of nations, and slew the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Sodom fled. And many fell through wounds in the vale of Siddim by the salt sea. And they took captive Sodom and Adam and Zeboim. And they took captive Lot also, the son of Abram's brother, and all his possessions, and they went to Dan. And one who had escaped came and told Abram that his brother's son had been taken captive, and Abram armed his household servants. For Abram and for his seed, a tenth of the first fruits to the Lord. And the Lord ordained it as an ordinance forever, that they should give it to the priests who served before them, that they should possess it forever. And to this law there is no limit of days, for he has ordained it for the generations forever, that they should give it to the Lord the tenth of everything, of the seed, and of the wine, and of the oil, and of the cattle, and of the sheep. And he gave it to his priests to eat and to drink with joy before him. And the king of Sodom came to him and bowed himself before him and said, Our lord Abram, give to us the souls which you have rescued, but let the booty be yours. And Abram said to him, I lift up my hands to the Most High God, that from a thread to a shoe latchet I shall not take anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich, except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. These shall take their portion. Chapter 14. After these things, in the 4th year of this week, on the new moon of the 3rd month, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a dream, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am your defender, and your reward will be exceedingly great. And he said, Lord, Lord, what will you give me, seeing I go from here childless? And the son of Masech, the son of my handmaid, is the Damascene Eliezer. He will be my heir, and to me you have given no seed. And he said to him, This man will not be your heir, but one that will come out of your own bowels. He will be your heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said to him, Look toward heaven, and number the stars, if you are able to number them. And he looked toward heaven, and beheld the stars, and he said to him, So shall your seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and it was counted to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give you the land of the Canaanites, to possess it forever. And I will be God to you, and to your seed after you. And he said, Lord, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said to him, Take a heifer of 3 years, and a goat of 3 years, and a sheep of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and a pigeon. And he took all these in the middle of the month, and he dwelt at the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron. And he built there an altar, and sacrificed all these, and he poured their blood upon the altar, and divided them in the midst, and laid them over against each other. But the birds he did not divide. And birds came down upon the pieces, and Abram drove them away, and did not let the birds touch them. And it came to pass, when the sun had set, and the ecstasy fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And it was said to Abram, Know of a surety that your seed will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall bring them into bondage, and afflict them 400 years. And the nation also to whom they will be in bondage will I judge. And after that they shall come forth from there with much substance. And you shall go to your fathers in peace, and be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall return there, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And he awoke from his sleep, and he arose, and the sun had set. And there was a flame,
and behold, a furnace was smoking, and a flame of fire passed between the pieces. And on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To your seed will I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, and the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, the Phacharites, and the Hivites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. And the day passed, and Abram offered the pieces, and the birds, and their fruit offerings, and their drink offerings, and the fire devoured them. And on that day we made a covenant with Abram, according as we had covenanted with Noah in this month. And Abram renewed the festival and ordinance for himself forever. And Abram rejoiced, and made all these things known to Sarai his wife, and he believed that he would have seed. But she did not bear. And Sarai advised her husband Abram, and said to him, Go into Hagar, my Egyptian maid. It may be that I should build up seed to you by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai his wife, and said to her, Do so. And Sarai took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to Abram, her husband, to be his wife. And he went in to her, and she conceived, and bore him a son. And he called his name Ishmael. In the 5th year of this week, 1965 a.m. And this was the 86th year in the life of Abram.